just as you all know, this is Lacey Stunica. She's Program Development Coordinator for Lutheran Family Services, and she is the key person when we're talking about sponsoring the refugee family.
Yeah.
And I advised her that our church has made a decision to do that, and our outreach committee, our church council, and our pastor are all very excited about this.
That's so awesome. Well, thank you so much.
So thank you for coming out. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. I'm so excited that you guys have taken this on. And so today I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what is it that we do with refugees, who is a refugee, what does that look like in Omaha, and then we can kind of talk about what does the sponsorship look like too, to kind of plant the seeds for, you know, those who are here as well. But I'll kind of just start with, you know, telling you a little bit about Lutheran Family Services. We have actually been around for 124 years, and we have 3 areas of service that we provide in the community. We have our Children's Services Department that's been around the longest, and we do foster care, adoption, early childhood prevention, child welfare. We are statewide with all of our programming. We have 3 centers for healthy families in Fremont, North Omaha, and Council Bluffs. So really supporting families and young children. And then we also have one of the largest behavioral health systems in Nebraska. So we do therapy, substance abuse counseling, services to veterans and their families through our At Ease program. And then we have what's called community services, which is where I work. And community services serves exclusively refugees, immigrants, asylees, victims of international human trafficking, sort of our newest neighbors. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about community services, because that's where you'll be engaging in with sponsoring a refugee family. Really kind of where we got started and what our bread and butter is we are the largest refugee resettlement agency in Nebraska. And so we resettle around 600 refugees a year into Omaha, and about 220, 230 into Lincoln. And so that is a federal program, the Refugee Resettlement Program. So in the country, there are 9 national agencies that work with the federal government to bring in refugees. The President of the United States, at the beginning of the fiscal year, makes a determination, it's called a presidential determination, on how many refugees will be allowed into the U.S. and from which countries. So this year, it's about 85,000. And so those 9 agencies get the 85,000. And they have affiliate offices in 49 states. Wyoming is the only state that doesn't resettle refugees. And so, right. And so, Lutheran Family Services, we're affiliated with 2 of those 9 agencies. Lutheran Immigration Refugee Services, or LIRS, and Church World Service, CWS. And so that's where our pipeline comes. How refugees come to Omaha is that our program is really focused on family reunification. And so 90% of the families that come to Nebraska are reuniting with someone they know. So they have a cousin or a brother, their parents, a neighbor, a close friend. So that's really nice, because there are a lot of support for new families in their ethnic communities. And then one of the things that we focus on is really creating that welcoming community for them, of what we call the receiving community, you know, Americans, Nebraskans, to say, you're welcome here, and help them get on the right track. So the Refugee Resettlement Program, which you will be engaged with very closely in a sponsorship, is only 90 days. So our mandate is that once a refugee walks off a plane, they should be self-sufficient in 90 days. So I know, it's kind of funny. So as an agency, so what that looks like is when they arrive off the plane, We have to have a house or an apartment for them that's fully furnished with groceries in the fridge. We welcome them. We provide a culturally appropriate meal so they have something familiar to eat when they arrive. And then for the next 3 months, we just really hit the ground running. We get them to doctor's appointments, enroll their kids in school, get social security cards, help them find jobs, get into ESL. How do you pay your OPPD? What is OPPD? Open a bank account. All of the things that it took us 18 plus years to learn, they have 3 months to learn. So, as an agency, we recognize that that is not enough time, for people to really be self-sufficient. I think I'd still have jet lag after 3 months, but so we've expanded our services considerably. So we also, in addition to refugee resettlement, we also provide extensive employment and education services. So we have folks who they just find refugees jobs, and we are at the top in the country for that. We have about an 80% success rate placing refugees in jobs in the first 60 days that they're in the U.S. So they come here and they just work right away. And they are on a path to citizenship, so they are able to work. They have their rights as a citizen, except they can't vote until they become citizens. So that is a little easier for them. And we also have on our employment team a job developer. So she works to sort of diversify the job industries for us. So it's not just meat packing. So we can just have, different opportunities for our families when they arrive. Because they kind of arrive with different skills and levels of English and all of that. So we want to make sure we have employers that are ready to hire. And we do. It's really exciting. And then we have 2 ESL classes that we run. One, we have 2 teachers at Yates Community Center, which is just almost across the street here. That's a program of Omaha Public Schools. And then we run a class out of Augustana Lutheran Church, Monday through Thursday. Another program that we have that's very exciting, not only for Omaha, but for the country, because a lot of times, it's the 90 days, like if you go to other states, the services for refugees is 90 days, see you later, hope it all works out, kind of thing. But we are very lucky in Omaha because we have what's called the International Center of the Heartland in our office. And the International Center is a community impact initiative that started in 2007, and it's funded through the United Way of the Midlands. So it's privately funded, and we don't have any restrictions, kind of like that resettlement program where it's very much like you do these things and it's 90 days. The International Center is open. And so a lot of times families after their 90 days just gets referred right on over to the International Center, and their case management can continue. Refugees who moved to Nebraska from another state, so let's say they were resettled in Kentucky, they can come to the International Center once they move to Omaha and receive services. A refugee who's been here 10 years and just needs some help here or there can come and receive services. So it's really unique. It's kind of a one-stop shop. We see everybody for anything they need. So there's no restrictions on services. And this year they served over 2,500 people. So people are just coming in and getting those services. We have in our office as well, to kind of support all the families that we're serving, we have what's called a food access center. We don't really call it a pantry, but because of a lot of our families are sort of starting out and their income is low, we have a pantry type access center where it provides culturally appropriate food, because a lot of our families don't access pantries. So they can come to our office and get the food that they're familiar with if they need help with food. And we have diapers and hygiene products, and so that's really exciting. We also have a full-time therapist on site for those families who might, a lot of our families have a lot of trauma, just I think as the nature of being a refugee. So having a therapist there for folks who might need that extra help is really wonderful. We have 2 immigration attorneys on site as well. So when it's time to get green cards after 1 year or apply for citizenship after 5 years, they can do that very low cost or no cost in our office as well. And then we have what's called Global Language Solutions, which is we have access to about 34 languages and dialects. And so we just have interpreters that we contract out throughout the community so refugees can access services throughout our community, not just at Lutheran Family Services. So Salvation Army or Heartland Family Service, they can call us and get that language if they need it. So really it's just kind of a one-stop shop for the newest neighbors, and we've seen, high needs to low needs, just to, can you read my mail for me, kind of things.
Do most of them speak English?
Who?
Do most of them speak English?
No,
Oh,
most of them do not speak English. Yeah, so the challenge is there. Really for refugees, the 3 barriers that they face are language access and childcare and transportation. So that's kind of the things that we try to work on. What's really unique, I think, about the program is that, for example, right now, we've been serving refugees for a very long time, so we've seen a lot of different communities come through. We've served the Vietnamese, we've served the Lao people, and Southern Sudanese, the Lost Boys, Somali Bantu, folks from Rwanda and Burundi. Right now, for the last about 4 years, we've seen a lot of folks from Burma who are of the Karen ethnicity, Kachin, Chin, and they are coming to us from refugee camps primarily in Thailand. And they have lived in those camps for 20 to 25 years. And so when they get here, on a day like today, it's quite an adjustment for them. And then we also serve refugees from Bhutan who have come to us from refugee camps in Nepal. And they have lived in those camps for about 17 years. And so I think what's really unique about this program, because I think when you look at it from the outside, you just think, how does this work? How do you come here and have a job and do this? And it's just amazing, I think, because they have been waiting and they have been hungry for that opportunity for themselves and their children. They just come and they're ready to go. We'll have a guy come off the plane and say, because we assess them right away, and they already know about Tyson or, different companies, and that's their dream job, or, and they just want to be successful. And it's pretty amazing to watch just the resiliency of the human spirit. Someone who comes here and 2 years later is purchasing out their first home. We have about over 300 families from Burma who have bought their first home within the first 18 to 24 months that they've lived here. So it's just really cool to watch. I always tell people about a family we had because I've worked with Lutheran Family Services for about 13 years, and I started as a case manager in our refugee resettlement program, and we had a family who came. They had 4 children, they're from Burma, no English. The kids were teenagers, went right into high school, which I think is a huge challenge. And after 3 years, their oldest daughter graduated, and she graduated with a Gates Millennium Scholarship, which pays for her undergrad and her grad school. And then 2 years later, her brother gets the same scholarship. Mom and dad, still working meatpacking, still don't speak English. But they're just investing in their children, and really, it's just really cool to see folks, take advantage and live that American dream, it's really fun. But the challenges are there, it's really a very fun and unique experience, I think.
Why are they in refugee camps 17 to 20 years?
Yeah. So it varies, I think, from conflict to conflict. A lot of the Lost Boys were there for over 10 years. The process to get out of the camps. So once a refugee, we'll talk about the folks from Burma, so I can give you that context. So when the Burmese government, they really were orchestrating an ethnic cleansing. They wanted to kind of homogenize Burma. And all of these different states in Burma were very diverse, had their own languages, religious practices, very independent. And so they kind of wanted to, wanted to even it out and homogenize it. So they would go into the villages in these towns and just burn them. It was very violent. And so folks had to flee into the jungles that are on the border between Burma and Thailand. So really, hundreds of thousands of people were fleeing into these jungles, and the United Nations found out. They negotiated with Thailand and created what were to be temporary camps for all these people to have that safety. There was nothing there when they came. It was just kind of an open field. They put some fencing around the perimeters. And it was supposed to be temporary. For refugees, the first goal for any refugee who has to flee their country is repatriation. They want to go home. They kind of wait to see, is it going to calm down? Am I going to be able to return home? And then the second choice is to see if can they become citizens of that country that they fled to. Is that a possibility? Thailand, it was not. Thailand said, you can come here, but you got to stay in the camp. And refugees are not allowed to leave the camp. They have to stay within the parameters of those camps. And so they kind of just built these little cities. Their homes, in the refugee camps are made out of bamboo. They made their own, bamboo homes and schools, and different nonprofits would come in. So once it kind of, after several years when it became apparent that repatriation was not going to be in the foreseeable future, then the United Nations opened up resettlement for these folks. And the United States resettles, Canada, the UK, Australia, Holland, there's some countries. But if you combine all of the resettlement, it is still less than 1% of the world's refugee population that actually gets to resettle. So there's just a huge amount of refugees. So once they decide, okay, I can't go home, I can't live here, I would like to apply for resettlement, then they start going through the process, and the process can take 4 to 7 years. They have to do background checks, Homeland Security, they have, all of the things that it really takes to prove that they're refugees, prove their status. So it just is a very tedious process to be selected and to come here, so it can take a long time. Now we've had, a few years ago, in 2003, 2004, we had an influx of Somali Bantu refugees, and they were in the refugee camp for about 5 to 6 years, so a little less time, because there was just some major security concerns for them because of just the different populations, and they were being targeted in the camps. So they were kind of a special case that got to come a little
Do
faster.
refugees have any choice of countries they want to go to, or is that just sort of?
So they can make a choice. A lot of times, like I said, it's the reunification. So if they have a cousin here or somebody else, then that will up their chances
Right.
to come to the U.S. But really, they don't.
Okay.
If there's a spot in Australia for them, but they really want to come to the U.S., they're going to go to Australia.
Okay.
So yeah.
You mentioned a little bit about jobs for refugee families. I don't know if it's terribly common now, but it's been my experience of recent years that when families come to the schools as an educator, I often am running into families where a parent was in a professional field of some sort previously, and when they come to the US, that qualification is often not
Yeah.
accepted. So can you talk a little bit about
Sure.
how that works?
Yeah, so like I said, because we see people from different countries at different levels of education, we run into that where, someone was a doctor and they come here, that doesn't mean you're a doctor here. And so, we have a guy right now who has restarted his professional career 3 times. And I just think I don't know if I would do that. He's got 2 PhDs and he's an engineer and everywhere he goes, he has to start over. But we have a program that we just started in our office that we call Careers and Connections. And that is really designed for those people. The Careers and Connections program is a mentoring program, and it's for former refugees who speak English, who have been here for a while, and who are ready to explore, how do I get back into my profession? Or how do I get that next job? Or, that job upgrade. So we do try to work with them and match them. But English is that barrier, so we really try to focus. And we have mentors also, ESL mentors, who will go into homes and work one-on-one to practice that English. Because we know that once people start working, they're not going to attend classes as regularly because life gets in the way. So we try to get someone in the home who's just working on that English with them. So if the language barrier isn't there, it's a little easier to do that, but that definitely is an issue.
You mentioned language classes. Have they looked with the large number of refugees employed at meatpacking plants, at large corporate structures, do they offer those classes at the plant?
Some have started. So I think it's Cargill in, thank you, I know, I'm just getting over a cold. Cargill in Schuyler has really done a great job with that. They have ESL classes, they have parenting classes, they provide some social service on site for their employees, which I think is great. But other than that, I haven't heard of that happening in Nebraska. But yeah, that is there. We have a guy from Burma who actually was a case manager in our office, and he speaks English really well, and he was a doctor in Burma. And he came to the US and he kind of was like, it's too hard to do this. I'm just going to work and support my family. And then after a while, he actually attended a leadership academy, and he said, you know what, this is what I'm passionate about. I'm going to try. So he quit. We were sad to see him go, but also understood. And he just called me the other day and he passed his boards. Can you believe it? So he's applying for residency in the spring or summer. So it's just really cool to see him at 35 say, I'm going to go do this,
We actually have a church member, Tracy Zace, who one of her businesses is to try to create international certifications
Oh, cool.
so that people can, particularly refugees, can continue their professional lives after they relocate.
Well, that is wonderful. We'll have to connect with them. Because I know that College of St. Mary kind of had a little program for a while where people could go and explore recertification in certain fields. But I think the funding was lost on that. So it would be great to connect on that, because as we look forward in the future, as populations change, that education level will change too. And to be honest, it is more difficult for folks who come who had high levels of education and professional achievement because their status is, drops when they come here. And we communicate to all of our families that, you gotta pay the bill, so you have to take that entry-level job, and we'll continue to work with you so you can aspire to get back into your field. So that it is kind of difficult, for sure.
You indicated Burma, what, we're thinking, and I'll have to talk to you about a date, because I know you want 30 days notice, is what I remember you saying.
Yeah, so, yeah, kind of how it works is once you pick a date, because we don't know who's coming, we only get about 3 to 6 weeks notice. So I tell you guys, take as much time as you need to kind of gather your items. As you're gathering, you're kind of generally gathering for a family of 4, being flexible that it might be a little bigger or smaller. And then you pick a date that you think you're gonna have all your stuff gathered. That could be in April, that could be in a month, it could be any time. And then I will know who your family is 3 to 6 weeks before that date. So that's kind of, it's a little wonky that way.
And when you, typically, are there parents, not just children, but typically is it like just a mom and kids, or is there a mom and dad and kids, or what's,
Yeah.
is there a typical family that you have?
There's really not, but I would say it's mostly 2-parent households. Sometimes it's multi-generational, so you'll have mom and dad and kids come, and then 2 months later, grandma and grandpa come, or, so, but I would say for the most part, it's 2-parent households.
And typically now, where are they coming from?
So we still are seeing a lot of people from Burma. That's probably the majority of who we're seeing right now in Omaha. We still get folks from Bhutan. And then we also are serving, and I have a flyer here too, we are serving folks from Afghanistan who were interpreters for our U.S. military. And as we are kind of drawing out of that conflict in Afghanistan, their lives are really in danger, really in danger. And so the U.S. Offers them safety with their wives and children. And so those guys speak English because they were interpreters. Their wives don't, so we support the wives a lot. And sometimes we tell those guys too, like, you hung out with soldiers for a long time, you can't always use that English here, It's not always how. But they served next to our troops for, some of these guys 10 years.
Who determines what families come to Nebraska?
So again, we just get that we have our 2 national agencies who determine, but it's that family reunification. And for the guys, they have the refugee benefits, but they're actually on what's called a special immigrant visa. Those are the guys from Afghanistan. And a lot of times they come to Nebraska because the service person that they served or protected lives here. So that's really fun to see them reunite because a lot of the military guys are just like, they really saved our lives, now we can help them here, and it's really cool to see that, brotherhood. It's fun. But, so I would say, you probably get a family from Burma. But like I said, I don't know. We have some Congolese that might be coming soon. That's a brand new population to Omaha. We have still some Sudanese, some Somali here and there. But Burma is definitely the majority right now. So yeah, that's kind of the quick and fast facts. Does anybody have any questions about that process, the refugee process or anything?
Are they vetted as I don't know what that word actually means.
Yeah.
Examined in some way or another?
As far as security-wise, yes. So right here you'll see this is a little outdated, and I can provide you electronically a more updated version. But we do have a little cheat sheet on how refugees get here. But they actually have to go through 7 security clearances, and that's why it takes so long for refugees to come here.
How long does it take?
So for the folks from Burma, like I said, from start to finish it can take up to 7 years.
Wow.
Because it's, how they kind of describe it to me is someone will come in from Homeland Security and interview them and then just leave. And then 3 months, 6 months, 1 year later, they'll come back, interview them again, ask them the same questions, leave. another 6 months, because they're vetting, they're gathering the story, they're making sure that it matches up. So if they say, well, I have a cousin in Omaha, Nebraska, they are going to contact that cousin and make sure that the same story that they told them matches the story, so they go through a very extensive process. Biometrics, they have to take fingerprints and iris and, all of those identifying factors. So, it just takes a very long time.
Homeland Security goes into the refugee camp,
Yes.
like in Thailand.
Yes, and Department of Health and Human Services, Homeland Security, it's just, all of our, I think there are 3 agencies that are checking. The State Department, everyone, yeah.
And Nebraska gets about 800 or 850 families a year, is that what you're?
Lutheran Family Services. So in Nebraska, there's actually 3 refugee resettlement agencies. So Lutheran Family Services does about 850 in between Omaha and Lincoln. And then there's what's called the Refugee Empowerment Center that used to be called Southern Sudan Community Association. It's just right across the street. And they do about 200 to 220 into Omaha. And then Catholic Social Services does about 200, 220 in Lincoln. So 8, 9, 10, 1,200 maybe, 1,300 come into Nebraska. But there's more because Nebraska is such a friendly place. And so.
Why do you do that?
Well, we've got some interesting bills coming out of our legislature.
Oh, I see, okay.
But it is a very friendly place. It's been really, the amount of support coming through has been really tremendous.
Everybody's friendly with the legislature.
A few folks in there. And so, yeah, so we have refugees who come and move to Nebraska once they've been resettled in other states, and they're called secondary migrants. So that's a large number too that come here. We serve them through the International Center.
Do most of them settle in Omaha and Lincoln, or do they go up to the?
They will, yeah, they mostly settle in Omaha and Lincoln. We've seen folks in Crete and Grand Island because they'll go where there's jobs.
Right.
And so there's large refugee populations in Lexington and Grand Island and Columbus and Schuyler because of those meatpacking plants that are there.
I see.
So they will go where they can get good work.
Yeah, Mr. Already said this. What are the bills in the legislature?
Oh, well, right now, there's a state senator who is trying to introduce legislation that will essentially have refugee resettlement agencies accountable for any crime that a refugee commits once they arrive here. So be it small or large, and we would have to have about $25 million in insurance to cover that, it's a little unrealistic, but it's out there. That was just introduced last week, but, yeah, so.
Hopefully it doesn't have any chance of getting passed.
Yeah, I don't think so, and there's just a lot of support too, a lot of people who are, now, I always joked, because I've done this work for a long time, that, refugees tended to be invisible in our community. Well, they're not anymore, so people know about them now, which I think is exciting to kind of share with people about our newcomers who are here just, carrying on that tradition.
And my understanding is the Korans from Burma are Christian.
A lot of them are, yes, but we do serve people from Burma who are Buddhist, who are Muslim, and who are Christian, but the majority are Christian.
So they come from all 3 areas.
Yeah.
We don't care.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you go describe a little bit about what's expected of us as sponsoring one of these families?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have some papers here if you want to come up and just grab them quickly. I'll blow my nose. All right. So our sponsorship program we try to, really the goal of the program is for you guys to have fun and to build community and meet some of our newest neighbors, but also to provide that support. Our agency, we have very strict, because it is a federal program, very strict things that we can do, very strict timelines. So the things that we can't do are really be their friend, have tea, take them to the zoo, show them the park near their house, practice doing the laundry, making sure that they're putting their groceries away properly. Because like I said, if you're living in a camp for 25 years where there's no running water, no electricity, no plumbing, then you come to Omaha, you need to be reminded sometimes that, oh, we need to, put that chicken in a Tupperware and put it in the fridge and, just some of those food safety and that sort of thing. And so that's really what we want for you to do as the sponsoring church, is to just welcome them and be their friend and keep that extra eye and be their teacher and their mentor. So this sheet really describes what the program is. We have 3 levels of sponsorship, but I think you are interested in a level 3.
I think we would do it all.
Do it all. So level 3 of a sponsorship is essentially you're going to collect all of the items that are required to go in a refugee's home, and those are outlined on the back of that sheet. We call it the whole 9 yards. So you're collecting all of the items. We give you keys to an apartment, and you actually go in and physically move in the stuff, decorate, put the beds together, kind of make it a home. If we don't have a sponsor doing that, we do it, and it's sad. It's pretty sad. They just kind of just throw it in there, So you have a chance to really make it a beautiful home for them. We invite you to come to the airport and welcome the family as they arrive to the U.S., so that's fun. We've had 50 people there, we've had 3 people there. That's just kind of a fun thing. I will say that most of the airport arrivals are like 10 p.m. on a Tuesday, so it's not for everybody. As an agency, we will provide a culturally appropriate meal for them. So we usually have someone from their ethnic community prepare a meal. So they, because they're traveling, they've been kind of confused along the way. And to come to Omaha and see so many people, happy to see them, and they can go home and eat a food that they like and they recognize it's kind of nice. That night, no matter what time it is, we actually go through the home with them so that they can turn on the shower and make tea in the morning and lock their doors and kind of understand their apartments. And then for the next phase, it's we get you into a group that's called a family care team. And we try to keep that group small to about, 8 people maximum. Not 8 people, but either 8 couples or 8 families, because you're going to be taking turns. Our commitment requirement is that you visit the family once a week for 1 hour for 3 to 6 months. And a family care team will take turns doing that. So we don't want it too big because you're not able to, build a relationship if you're only going once every 6 weeks, So I'll let you guys create your family care team. And then once your team is together, I will come back and do a 2-hour training. It's called the family care team training, and I'll meet with your team. And we'll just kind of go over we call it the survival guide. What do you do with this family? Now what do we do? And so as far as that mentoring piece goes. So that's what I'll just look forward to hearing from your team is when you've got your family care team assembled and when you're ready for that training. After, we don't actually introduce the care team to the family formally until the family has been here for 2 weeks. So we try to give them about 2 weeks to catch up on sleep. They have so much, they have to go to intakes and doctor's appointments. And so we try to give them a little time. And then we will do what's called an initial meeting, where as many people from the care team as possible goes to the home with an interpreter and myself, and you meet the family, and you ask questions, and you get to know each other. Because after that, we don't provide an interpreter, unless you want to pay for one.
How do you match the family that you choose to, be sponsored by a specific church?
So really, it's just first come, first served.
Oh,
So when you guys determine the date you want, it'll be a family that's coming within that time frame that you
Okay.
decide. Now, some churches have an affinity for a certain ethnic group, or, they might have someone who lived in Afghanistan and speaks Dari, and they would love an Afghani family, so they might want a family from Afghanistan. I'll kind of wait for that family. But we just don't know who's coming at any time. We only get about 3 to 6 weeks notice. So it takes a lot of open-mindedness and flexibility.
About how many churches in town sponsor?
So last year, we had 37 official co-sponsors.
37 congregations.
Yeah, so my goal is 100% sponsorship. I would love to see what 100% of our families have sponsors. Because what we have found is that when families are supported in that first 6 months to a year, it just changes their trajectory. I mean, you see families who didn't have that support, and 5 years later, 3 years later, they're still struggling with some of the basic things. And so, with 37 churches last year, we were #1 in the country.
Oh, wow.
A lot of cities don't have a lot of church support, so that's so exciting to me to see. So,
This is 37 churches in Nebraska? or
in Omaha.
In Omaha?
In Omaha. In Lincoln, we have about 35. So, yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so it's really wonderful. And we try to make it easy. Are you going to run up against awkwardness and bumps and challenges? Yeah, but that's kind of the fun part you're signing up for. But, and we say, you can be friends with this family forever. We just track it for 6 months. We don't say, it's not like you have to disappear from their lives. After that point, you're just friends, you can be in each other's lives and in any way you want to. But our goal, again, is 100% sponsorship. And we resettle about 230 families a year. So 37, we're getting there, but tell your friends, because we'd like to have more families be welcomed.
Now, this church used to sponsor a long time ago.
Okay.
It just, some of those things, it kind of comes and goes.
You
And about
know,
3 years ago, we had conversations,
Yeah.
and it kind of never, I don't know why it never gelled, it didn't. But now I think it's going.
yeah, it's awesome. It's really awesome. And, we have learned a lot of lessons as well, as far as the sponsorship. And kind of the mandate that comes down from our national offices doesn't work. I think, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, even 10 years ago, a lot of the responsibility was put on churches, and that burns people out. You don't have an enjoyable experience. So when I started back in this role 4 years ago, I really changed the model from the feedback that I received from congregations on how do we really make that a successful partnership. And that's why we offer the 3 levels, so that people can kind of join at any level that they're able to. And you might have people in your congregation who are like, I've got couches, I've got tables, but I don't really have the time to mentor. And you might have people say, I don't have anything, but I have time and I want to get to know this family. So it's a great way to engage a broader. Or you could have them to your church for a potluck and just introduce them, so it's
One of the previous families is still officially members of the church.
really,
They don't
that's
attend,
cool.
but they're still on the roll, so.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You mentioned the number of churches. Are there other social groups or
Yeah.
entities that sponsor families?
Yeah, so we don't discriminate. We've had corporate groups, so like some of the bigger corporations have, employee retention groups, or they'll have a little, like your Cube Farm and Finance, we'll do a family. Really, you just need a group of like 6 to 8 people to kind of pull it off and use their different resources. We've had book clubs, we've had just individual families do it. We've engaged with some of the synagogues, with the mosques, to also engage in this as well. So really, anybody who wants to do it can do it,
If I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like as a sponsor at the level that we're talking about, what we would need to do in the next 30, 60 days is certainly form our core team of what you're saying, like 8 families.
Sure.
8 people, 8 families. As well as collect stuff to furnish an apartment, home, forever, thinking typically a family of 4.
Uh-huh.
And that would include the items that you have listed on that sheet.
Right.
That's kind of what we need to do in the next
Uh-huh.
time frame, as well as give you a date of when we think we're ready to
Yeah.
get a family.
Yep, so the date should be on a Friday, because that's the date you'll come to my office and grab keys for the apartment. And so you'll have, typically, I give keys out on a Friday, and then the family will arrive the next Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. So you'll have about a 5 to 7 day window of being able to be in and out of that apartment.
And you would like 30 days notice on the key date.
I don't necessarily, I just need 3 to 6 weeks, So if you were ready in the next 3 to 6 weeks, I'd have to go back and find who that family is, yeah.
Average about.
Average,
You
yeah.
give at least 30 days.
Yeah,
notice.
that
That's what
works.
I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, and then if you're able to, we ask if you could provide groceries, and we have a culturally appropriate grocery list for each of the
That would be
communities.
after we know the family.
After you know the family. So, yeah, once you pick that date and I can find your family 3 to 6 weeks before your date, then you can kind of tweak the list a little bit. And for clothing, if you want to provide clothing, we just ask that you wait till after they arrive,
Okay.
just because we don't know.
That was my,
Typically,
that was
yeah.
my next question, because it says only clothing accepted.
Well, this list too that we give out to just people, because we'll pick up donations in the community if people are getting rid of couches. We have a U-Haul size truck. And so, because we don't distribute clothing in our office, but for sponsors, we say just wait till they get here if you want to do that, or you can take them shopping, or you can, because they typically are just teeny tiny.
We have a thrift shop that got you to help out.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
so one thing you should know, and not just for whatever family we sponsor,
Yeah.
we have more clothes in our
Awesome.
basement of our thrift shop than we will ever sell.
Okay.
And I have for years been trying to figure out ways to move some of that merchandise.
Yeah.
We really ought to set up a time where
Yeah.
new families just come and take whatever they want.
That would be awesome. That would be really
Let's
awesome.
communicate about that as a
Okay.
separate from sponsoring. sort of.
Perfect. That would be great.
Okay.
Because that's a hard part for us because we just don't have the capacity to distribute clothes because that's kind of an undertaking.
Yeah, that's exactly, we don't have quite the capacity for the amount of inventory.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And so we typically just accept the winter items because we have to actually meet them at the airport with winter items because they're in flip-flops and sarongs. And we're like, you can't wear that outside right now. So we kind of have to come equipped.
Can you talk a little bit about how properties are acquired or allocated
Yeah.
for families? How does, you mentioned giving the keys to a group to go prepare the apartment or the home, but how does Lutheran Family Services
Get them.
arrange that?
That is the challenge. So, I always tell people the two things we're always looking for are landlords and employers. So if you know anyone, call us. But it is difficult to find housing because we have to say to landlords, can you rent to our client who doesn't live here yet doesn't have a social security card yet, doesn't have work history, doesn't have a job, you know. Most people are like, no, thank you. But we do have landlords that we've worked with over the years who are great. I mean, most of our apartments are kind of in the Benson Dundee area. And so they work with us and they turn over apartments very quickly. So that's why, you know, when you ask for keys, a lot of times you'll say, is it a 2-bedroom? Where's it located? And I might not know that answer until like literally the day before, because the apartments, you know, it's a miracle how the case managers find them and get them
Do
ready.
most refugee families stay in the apartment that they originally got, or do they just be there a little while and then go elsewhere?
So typically they sign a 6-month to 1-year
I
lease,
got you.
and then after that, they kind of decide what to do.
Right.
Who pays the rent?
So for us, every refugee gets $925 per person as a one-time resettlement fee that comes to our agency. So as you can imagine, when we partner with you to provide these things, that saves them money, because if they don't have a sponsor, we have to use that money to get all of these things. And we have a little bit of flex funding too. So we try, and most of the time we are able to pay 6 months in advance.
Where do you get your money?
It's from the federal government.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so,
that's all of it comes from the federal government. You don't take it, people in the community don't donate or something.
so people do donate,
They do,
absolutely.
okay.
Yeah, we're always looking
For
for.
family services.
Yeah, so, I mean, we rely on that, especially for the international
Yeah.
center. But as far as like, we do get that $925 per person. And then there's some flex funding available too. So that's why this partnership is important. And then if you guys are interested in helping, like, hey, we'll raise money and pay a month's rent, we just ask that you give it to us or give it to the landlord directly. And that's kind of part of our training, just about the boundaries of giving money to refugees. But for my job, for example, not only do I work with churches and volunteers, I have a volunteer coordinator as well. But I raise money. So if we have families that come in and are, maybe dad got laid off or just started a job, or they're brand new and they need an extra month's rent, I do fundraising for
If this is a full-time job for you?
full-time. Yeah.
Is there any incentive for the landlords, specific because it's a federally funded program? I mean, is there any tax incentive or anything like that that would encourage landlords to rent to refugee families or to your?
There's really not,
I
there
mean, it
should
just
be.
strikes me if you could defer taxation or things like that during
That's
the time that
interesting,
they're
yeah.
inhabited by a refugee family, that might encourage.
Yeah, a lot of times, we work with a lot of small landlords too. Like if we have a family coming in, we'll just kind of go Craigslist and explain the program. And we'll use other landlords as references as well, just to kind of expand that base a little bit. But one of the biggest hurdles we have actually is, with fair housing laws, which is great. I mean, we want fair housing laws, but some of the larger companies deem it as discrimination because they require all of their tenants to provide, background checks and have employment history, and this is the requirement, so they can't really break that for us. And so we have that barrier there for some of those larger companies because they would be liable they're discriminating for us, I guess. And so it's just a challenge. But I mean, we have not had anyone homeless, and it's been there, but a lot of states have housing is a huge problem, just because of it has to be affordable, and safe, and all of those things.
So just to clarify, the apartment is in the refugee family's name,
Yes.
not in.
Correct. Yeah. Because the whole program is designed for self-sufficiency. And so, we're really, as far as refugee resettlement case managers, they're pretty much in and out in 3 to 6 months. And so they want to set them up for that permanency.
How do you all help these, the breadwinners find work?
So we have folks who just find them jobs. We have a team of employment specialists who just are hitting the streets finding jobs. A lot of our families, because of the language barrier, do start in meatpacking or hospitality. So they'll work in hotels and meatpacking to start out. If folks have more English, obviously their industry expands a little bit because they have the ability to work at different places. But we also have a woman who just goes and talks to employers about how to create opportunities for low English speakers. So we now are working with Baxter, and they are doing some detailing, and they'll hire an English speaker who then will have a team of non-English speakers, and they have become creative, and they've been a great resource to our clients. And it kind of just diversifies the field a little bit. But we have a great economy in Nebraska. I mean, it's reflective in the success of refugees.
2.7%
Yeah,
employment,
that's right.
unemployment.
So, and it's about that, that for refugees as well. And I had one employer say to me, when refugees come here, they don't need anything from us except an opportunity because they're just so motivated and hardworking, It's an honor for him, so it's cool.
Okay, any more questions?
Excuse me.
Thank you so much.
Oh, go ahead.
Go
Go ahead.
Oh, I've actually been working for 2.5 years volunteering at Augustana Lutheran with the
Cool,
ESL. So
awesome.
so I've gotten to know a lot. And just another thing, so Jessica?
Yeah,
Right. Okay, so she actually teaches these classes,
success track.
right, specifically for getting employed.
Yes.
And it's kind of like sometimes the language that you were talking about before, and actual items, you use this to clean such and such.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so
Yeah, so all of our refugees, we do have a success track class. It's kind of like vocational ESL, but they have to attend it before we start job search, just so they're really ready for what that will look like. And like she said, they get down to naming certain items and talking about time management. And because one thing you'll find is every culture has a different idea about time management. And American
cleanliness.
and
too.
cleanliness.
Right.
I always say hygiene and time. Those are the things that Americans value a lot.
Could I
So-
ask you about one other thing?
Sure.
I was never totally clear about this. I thought I understood that some of these refugees can go get a driver's license by just getting through a written exam. They don't have to do the driving part.
No.
That's not
They
good.
can get a driver's license through a picture test, but they have to take the driving test as well.
Oh, okay.
But because
They might not know
the language, so the
Yeah.
DMV does offer a picture test,
Oh, okay.
but they do have to drive
Okay.
too. Yeah. So
Well, thank you.
thank you
I will be
so
back in
much.
touch with you
Great.
when, and I'll give you a date, okay?
Great.
In my head right now, I was thinking April 1, which is a Friday,
Great.
but I want to get the team formed, and
Okay.
I'll get back in touch with you.
Awesome. That would be wonderful.
Thank you for
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah, take
And
any of
I
these
want everybody to
materials
continue.
and
Also,
Sorry
if
about
any
the
of you here want to be
Okay.
as part of the team, would you let me know?
Probably.
Because I'm collecting names.